You're standing in Best Buy, staring at a wall of TVS. Every single box screams 4K. The Samsung 4K, the TCL 4K. That $299 Hisense special near the clearance rack, also 4K. They all promise 3,840 by 2,160 pixels. 8.3 million tiny dots painting your picture. Except here's what nobody tells you at checkout. Most of what you watch on that expensive 4K TV isn't actually 4K, not even close. That Super Bowl you streamed? Upscaled 1080p. That Netflix movie you paid extra for? 50-50 chance it's a 2K upscale with a 4K sticker slapped on it. Even the TV itself might be lying about what's inside. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the biggest bait and switch in consumer electronics. Section 1. The technical shell game. Let's start with what 4K actually means, because even that's gotten murky. True 4K, on the kind used in movie theaters, is 4,096 by 2,160 pixels. But your TV at home? That's UHD, or ultra high definition, 3,840 by 2,160. The industry decided these two things were close enough to both call 4K, which is like saying a Honda Civic and a BMW are both cars, so they're basically the same thing. But here's where it gets interesting. That pixel count your TV advertises? It's talking about what the screen can display, not what you're actually watching. Think of it like buying a Ferrari, but only ever driving it in a school zone. Sure, it can go 200 miles per hour, but you're doing 25. A true 4K image has all 8.3 million pixels created from scratch, captured by a camera or rendered by a computer at that exact resolution. But upscaled 4K? That's taking a 1080p image with 2 million pixels and using software to guess what the other 6 million pixels should look like. Your TV is literally inventing 75% of the picture. Now, some upscaling is actually pretty good. Samsung's quantum processors, Sony's top-end chips, they can make educated guesses that look impressive from your couch. But here's the thing. Interpolation, the technical term for this pixel guessing game, always produces artifacts. Blurring, halo effects around edges, blockiness in complex scenes. The algorithms have to choose which problem to minimize, which means every upscaled image is trading one type of imperfection for another. One Best Buy customer said it best. Bought a Samsung Q80C for $1,200. NFL games looked good until I walked up close during a timeout. Player numbers were blurry. Graphics had weird halos. From the couch, it's fine, but I paid for 4K, not 4K from a distance. Section 2. The content drought. Now, let's talk about what you're actually watching, because this is where the lie really takes shape. You dropped $1,000 on a 4K TV. You're paying Netflix an extra $4 a month for their 4K plan. You're streaming the Super Bowl on Tubi in 4K, and almost none of it is actually 4K. Let's start with live sports, since that's what a lot of people buy big TVS for. In 2025, the Super Bowl, the single biggest television event in America, is broadcast in 1080p, then upscaled to 4K. That's right. Fox is taking a 1080p signal and running it through an upscaler before sending it to your TV, where your TV runs it through another upscaler. You're getting upscaled upscaling. And get this, network upscaling doesn't even improve the picture. A streaming engineer named Zambelli explained it perfectly. All HD video gets upscaled by your TV anyway, so upscaling it at encoding time doesn't provide any real value. In fact, it's counterproductive because higher resolutions require higher bit rates to maintain quality. You're using more bandwidth and CDN costs for literally zero improvement over the original 1080p signal. So why do it? Marketing. Pure and simple. Networks can slap 4K on the promotional materials. Your TV's info screen shows 4K in the corner, and you, the customer, think you're getting your money's worth. Streaming movies? Same story. Most Hollywood productions are still finished at 2K resolution. That's 2048 by 1080 for scope format films. Avengers, Endgame, Obeliskom aus Inkains, one of the highest grossing movies ever made, was mastered in 2K. When you buy it in 4K on Apple TV or stream it on Disney Plus, you're watching an upscale. Now, some films do get true 4K treatment, especially older movies shot on 35mm film. Film actually has resolution that exceeds 4K, so when they scan those negatives, they can create genuine 4K masters. Movies like Alien, Mad Max, Fury Road, and The Godfather look stunning in 4K because they're working from source material that has the detail to extract. But here's where it gets messy. Not all upscales are created equal. The 4K release of Terminator 2, Judgment Day, used a native 4K scan, but applied so much digital noise reduction that it looked like everyone was made of wax. Meanwhile, a well-done 2K upscale of Mad Max, Fury Road, is considered reference quality. Nice, the mastering matters more than whether the source was native 4K. And then there's the compression problem. Even when you are watching true 4K content, streaming services are compressing the hell out of it. A 4K Blu-ray disc transfers data at about 80 to 100 megabits per second. Netflix compresses their 4K down to 25 megabits per second. That means you're losing 3/4 of the data just to make it stream smoothly. Your internet can barely handle the castrated version, let alone something approaching disc quality. One Reddit user summed it up. I bought my first 4K Blu-ray and honestly felt scammed. The disc I got turned out to be an upscale from 2K. I paid $30 for a movie that looks exactly like the 1080p version, but with a fancier label. Section 3, the hardware deception. But it gets worse. Some TVs advertised as 4K don't even have the right hardware inside to deliver true 4K color. This is where we need to talk about RGBW versus RGB panels. A 4K TV should have 8.3 million RGB subpixels. That's red, green, and blue elements for every single pixel. But some manufacturers, especially budget brands, use RGBW panels instead. That's red, green, blue, and white. Why add white? Cost savings. White subpixels are cheaper to produce, and they make the panel brighter without using as much backlight. Sounds great, except here's the problem. Those white subpixels can't produce color. Up to 25% of your screen's subpixels are just sitting there contributing brightness, but not detail or color accuracy. Critics have called these false 4K panels because they don't deliver 8.3 million full-color subpixels. You're getting 4K resolution, technically, but with compromised color and sharpness. And most buyers have no idea which technology is in the TV they're looking at, because it's not listed in the specs at Best Buy. Sharp found out the hard way what happens when you play fast and loose with specs. In 2025, Sharp sued Hisense, who'd been manufacturing TVs under the Sharp name, for falsely advertising products as 4K when they were actually just UHD, a lower specification. Sharp's independent testing found brightness specs inflated by 35% on at least one model. Hundreds of customers filed complaints about green lines, double images, and screens that failed within months. One Sharp TV owner wrote, 4 months in, and my 40-inch 4K smart TV developed a double image at the bottom of the screen with horizontal lines. Customer service denied my warranty claim. $2,000 down the drain. And Hisense isn't alone. In March 2025, A class action lawsuit was filed against Hisense over their QLED TVS. The lawsuit claims Hisense falsely marketed certain models as having quantum dot technology when the TVS either lacked it entirely or had such tiny amounts that it made no meaningful difference to picture quality. The plaintiff, Robert Macchiocchi, says he paid a premium for QLED technology that didn't exist. And here's the kicker. Consumers can't verify whether a TV has quantum dots before purchase. You have to take the manufacturer's word for it. Section 4. The streaming scam. Let's talk about Apple TV, since they just got hit with a class action lawsuit in December 2025 over this exact issue. The plaintiff Eddie Guerra claims Apple advertises digital content as 4K on their platform, but the content can only be viewed in 4K while streaming. If you download it for offline viewing, it maxes out at 1080p. Think about that. You're paying premium prices for 4K movies. Apple is advertising them as 4K. But you can't actually keep a 4K file. You can only access 4K if you have an internet connection and stream it. Oh, and Apple also reserves the right to revoke your access at any time, since you're not actually buying the movie. You're licensing it. The lawsuit claims this violates California's digital property rights law. Streaming services love to advertise their 4K capabilities, but the reality is, most of their libraries are 1080p. Yes, Netflix has 4K content. So does Disney+, Amazon Prime, and Max. But if you actually look at what's available in native 4K versus what's been upscaled, the ratio is maybe 1 in 10 at best. And even when something is labeled 4K on the platform, you have no way to verify whether it's native or upscaled without doing serious research. There's no industry standard for disclosing this. No native 4K badge. No fine print that says this program was mastered in 2K and upscaled. A streaming enthusiast put it bluntly, I pay for Netflix Premium. I pay for Disney plus 4K. I bought a $2,000 LG OLED, and maybe 10% of what I watch is actually 4K. The rest is just fancy upscaling that my TV could have done for free. Section 5. Gaming gets a pass. Video games are actually one of the few places where 4K is more honest, but even here there are asterisks the size of billboards. Look, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X both advertise 4K gaming, and they can deliver it, for some games, under some conditions. But the reality is, most AAA titles on these consoles render somewhere between 1440p and 1800p, then use upscaling techniques like temporal reconstruction or DLSS to hit 4K output. Why? Because rendering a complex game at true 4K at 60 frames per second requires insane processing power. Most consoles just can't do it without tanking the frame rate or downgrading graphics. So developers make a choice. Render at a lower resolution, but keep everything else looking great. Then use smart upscaling to reach 4K. Is this deceptive? It's complicated. The upscaling techniques in modern games are actually pretty sophisticated. DLSS and similar AI-driven methods can produce results that are very close to native 4K. But close isn't the same as identical. And you definitely wouldn't know from the box that your 4K gaming console is rendering most games at half that resolution. And let's not even talk about the Nintendo Switch, which maxes out at 1080p docked and 720p handheld. Yet people keep asking when we're getting a 4K Switch. Spoiler, probably never, because Nintendo focuses on gameplay over resolution wars. Section 6. How to protect yourself. So what do you do with all this information? How do you avoid getting scammed? First, if you're buying a TV, focus on things that matter more than resolution. HDR support. High dynamic range makes a bigger visual difference than the jump from 1080p to 4K for most people. An OLED panel with perfect blacks and infinite contrast will blow away a cheap 4K LCD. But screen size and viewing distance matter more than pixel count. If you're sitting 10 feet from a 55-inch TV, you literally cannot see the difference between 1080p and 4K. Your eyes don't have the resolution. Second, if you care about true 4K, invest in physical media. 4K Blu-ray discs are the only consumer format that delivers uncompressed 4K with high bit rates. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, you need a player. But if you want a reference quality picture, that's the only way to get it. Third, do your research before buying content. Websites like realorfake4k.com track which Blu-ray releases are native 4K versus upscales. For streaming, forums and Reddit threads will tell you which shows and movies are worth watching in 4K. And fourth, and this is important, stop feeling bad about sticking with 1080p if it works for you. And the industry wants you to think you're missing out. You're not. If your current setup looks good and you're happy with it, save your money. 4K is only worth it if you have the right size screen, the right viewing distance, and access to actual 4K content. Otherwise, you're paying a premium for marginal gains. Outro. Here's the bottom line. 4K has become a marketing term that means almost nothing. Your TV might be 4K. Your content probably isn't. And even when it is, compression and processing often erase the advantages you paid for. Does that make 4K worthless? No. When done right, native 4K source, minimal compression, proper display, it's genuinely impressive. But done right describes maybe 5% of what people actually watch. The industry sold us 4K as the future. What they delivered is a beautiful lie wrapped in asterisks. What's your experience been with 4K? Are you seeing the improvements you expected, or does it feel like you're paying extra for a placebo? Drop a comment below. And if you want more honest breakdowns before you drop $1,000 on your next TV, hit that subscribe button. We're here to cut through the marketing BS so you know exactly what you're getting.